So here we are today for another Inspired Good Fat Life podcast. And my guest is Miss Meena Puri. Do I pronounce your name
Yes,
right?
you
Yeah,
pronounced
Puri.
me
Okay.
perfectly.
Okay,
Thank you,
perfect.
Sherry.
And before we get started with our uplifting, I know this is going to be an amazing conversation just because the energy and light and wisdom you bring. I need to
Thank you.
talk about my Good Fat Life magazine, right?
Mhm.
And here I'm moving it around, and I don't know, Johnny had it so
Yeah, I
perfectly
can see
placed.
it.
Um, and yeah, so we've got the podcast is kind of the magazine come to life. And if you want to know more about the magazine, you would go to goodfatlife.com. And that said, I want to introduce my guest, Miss Meena Puri, and she has just finished her second book, right? The first book,
Yes,
and
yes.
the first book was about food,
Yeah, it
Ayurvedic
was
food.
about healing your relationship with food, the Ayurveda answer.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful book and full of delicious recipes, and we'll cycle back to that in a little bit. And so,
Yeah.
Miss Meena, tell us about this new book and what inspired you to write this one.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I want to say I love the song.
Oh, yeah,
It's so lovely, just so delightful.
yeah.
So it set the tone for your podcast. So what inspired the book? Actually, the teachings in the book I've been doing pre-pandemic, and they've been sitting there. I've been writing, but it wasn't the time. Then during the pandemic, created such a need for such teachings, and so it really is inspired. The release of it is inspired by the pandemic, but I got a little bit more real because really, I mean, can we get any more real than what the pandemic did to the whole world?
So,
So,
so talk about that a little bit. So, what is that getting real? So, first, I have to tell you that um, our listeners that Mina and she organized the trip to India. It was a on my bucket list. So we spent 3 weeks in India. It's been now 3 years ago. Has it been that long?
3 years ago, can
Three
you
years
believe
ago,
that? Yeah,
right?
around this time, it was
Around
in
this time.
2019.
Yeah, and it was life changing, and so I'm sure things will bubble up from the trip, but
Yeah, yeah, that
so
was a memorable trip.
it was. She had us meditating at like the Taj Mahal and doing yoga. we were we
Oh
were in
my God,
trouble with the
we
we were in
said
trouble.
wherever. Yeah.
Yeah, we were in trouble with the guards all over the place.
Yeah, they're like, you cannot be sitting here. You cannot be doing yoga. I'm like, really? Why? So, anyways, by the time they got to find us, I did my thing anyway. So there.
Yes, yes, you
So,
did. So, anyways, she has an adventuresome spirit and a what is it? Not authority, but you don't care. You don't. It's not that you don't care. It's just that you're like, hey, we're here. We're gonna meditate and do yoga, right?
I know, certain things you just don't need to care about,
Right.
even though
So,
everybody makes a noise.
and that's right. So tell me. So your book. So what is? You said you just needed to get real.
So,
So what does that
get
mean to you?
real. So, I think what the suffering the humanity as a collective been experiencing, there was like a film over it. We weren't acknowledging it.
Mm,
We weren't acknowledging the lives that we were living. So pandemic made it real because it's in your face. You cannot not know the suffering that humanity has endured in the last 2 years in all kinds of ways, not just getting COVID, but the emotionally and mentally and spiritually, everything came to surface. Whatever we were not acknowledging or trying to hide from or pretending it away, it was, would be really difficult to do that because we were given this pause in time, kind of like a bend in the road. And whatever we thought was real and um, Whatever we thought was normal, all of a sudden was ripped away in all kinds of ways. So we did have to wake up to a certain extent, even though we may have done it kicking and screaming, or we may have done it thinking, well, when are we going to get back to the normal?
Well,
And
there's not a back to normal,
there's not a
is it?
back to normal. Seldom we can turn back the clock, and the question is, do we want to?
Right.
Because we were lulled into this unquestioned life and fascinated by the glitter and the glamour of life that it can provide us, and totally unaware or oblivious to the programming and conditioning underneath it all that we were a prisoner of. So, and during this COVID, more and more people are waking up. So they're waking up to not only what's real, but they're waking up to what is this all about? Do I want this? For example, even our work situation. All of a sudden people are working from home. Many realize that this really reduced their stress, that the
Hmm.
9 to 5 was really sucking the life out of people. It was treating them like robots, and there
And
was
so,
nothing left for them to come back. So a lot of things like that I think we became more aware of.
and I should say that you have a practice where you work with people, um, and specifically, what kinds of things do people come to you for
So
help with?
people come to me for a number of things. Being an Ayurvedic practitioner, many people call me a one-stop shop. The reason why it is so is because Ayurveda looks at the whole picture. Some come to me, some think they come to me for, you say, for example, a rash on their skin, or stomach issues, or arthritis or hypertension. That's what they think they came to me for. But there's really so much deeper stuff going on. And they begin to open up. So I tell them, I said, you realize that you didn't come to me for hypertension. You did, but that's a symptom. So then we get into we go all the way deep into, from nutrition all the way into energy healing, all the way into trauma healing. Not a single person I worked with who hasn't had trauma. I mean, being human is traumatic on a daily
Yeah.
basis, right? So my work then is to dig deep, make changes at the deeper level, because when we change something there, it cascades changes into the physical, as opposed to looking at the physical, going from symptom to symptom and symptom, and just kind of hovering on the surface and getting nowhere. So, if somebody has, a client was today like a spur in his heel, I'm like, well, we can't meditate that away. So I have to address that pain so he can think straight. But at the same time, we're working on deeper levels, right? Like, it doesn't take me an hour to prescribe somebody herbs, and that's really not even what the practice is about. And many people think they're using the Western medicine model to understand Ayurvedic medicine. They cannot be understood together like that. They're
That's
separate
really
things.
interesting. That's really
One
interesting.
is an
That
apple, one is an orange.
okay,
Yes, in the family of fruit, but they're quite different fruits.
got
Okay.
it.
So I work with people. So then people come to me for just conflict in relationships, or they have chronic issues like fatigue, depression, anxiety, fear. That's big right now. And and they come to me because there's lack of purpose, lack of joy. They're out of source. They don't. Nothing seems to be wrong, but nothing is right.
But nothing's. And so going back to what you started with, which was the genesis of your book, are
Mhm.
you seeing that that's gotten more intense or worse since that apathy or that since COVID, or is
Oh,
it just
absolutely.
it's
Absolutely. I think what
yeah,
COVID has done, it has brought it to surface. It's
got
kind
it.
of in our face. And more and more people have to look at it. We can't just pretend it away because it's hitting you personally.
Mm.
It's hitting people on a personal level, whether it's due to like a tragedies of death, whether it's just the what isolation has you know brought for people, the anxiety and the fear. And then when you're experiencing so much intensity in the collective, it's going to make you fearful. It's going to make you feel life is so uncertain. Even if it's not hitting you personally, how can it not, first of all, hit you personally? Because you are part of it. So that certainty, that security of living in a world that's they can live in is no longer there for many people. And then they're having to realize, well, the truth is, the external has always been tumultuous, probably not to this noticeable degree. So the answers are really going to come from a different place. The direction is different, the direction is inward. We can't change much on the outside. So when faced with adversity, we are compelled to change things on the inside.
Mm.
And that's the premise of this book and what this insight is all about, and how to make sense of what's going on with you, what it is triggering for you, what's triggering within you, because the external is mirroring, right?
Mm. Mm.
One
Well,
way to know what's up with you is when something mirrors you and you don't like it.
right. Well, and I like I was talking to somebody earlier. So when I feel like I want to really whack a mole, right? Whack a mole, or just start throwing things or whatever. It's over time because we've done a lot of work. Is
Yeah,
just like, okay, stop. It's time to just stop and say, what the heck's going on here? Because
yeah.
this is not we were designed to be joyful, happy people, and happy people don't want to throw things or whack moles, right? um, and I've found that is using the body, to use the body for information. it's
Oh,
and
absolutely. I mean, body is information, emotions, thoughts are information. Body is a tool for evolution, really. And it's
Yes.
it's interesting that you are feeling this way because I did like a every now and then, not that often. I've started to do more to be more real, and just did a rant because there was a talk came about spirituality and swearing. And I'm like, I have sworn more during this pandemic. I've never sworn before, but I feel like some words I haven't found a spiritual word to just express that. I just haven't. I'm like, what the f, So I said sometimes we are in our head. Sometimes we have to screw it all and
Yeah.
just enjoy our freaking precious life and
Yeah.
look at what's in front of us, instead of figuring things out because we're never going to.
Well, and make us when I remember when my son was young. He was probably around 12, so he was old enough to definitely know the difference, but
Yeah.
coming into his own personality.
Hmm.
And he'd say, "Mom, sometimes golly gee just doesn't work." And
I know. I think like expressing, swearing, I think there's, nothing is beyond spirituality. Spirituality is not something out there that I have to go. It's within me. It's within my everyday grit and gruel of life. And can you laugh at it? Can you look at the bigger picture? Can you be a witness? Can you understand like the miracle that you are and the dilemma that we are in? Having a human life being I mean, it's very confusing. It's quite a, hide and chase that we are created with. No wonder we're constantly in human dilemma because it is confusing. And then there are teachers out there who are taking it, the guy when my one of my potential client went on this journey looking for spirituality, and I said, stop. First of all, figure out what the heck is the problem. Where are you butting your head up against, right? What is the inner glass ceiling? What are you like banging your head against? Figure that out. We have to understand the problem. So when there's a solution, we know there's a click.
Mm.
Otherwise, we are going to look at all the solutions and they're endless and we're going to do ourselves in. Oh my God. So as even I'm talking about this, I'm thinking, oh really? This is so sometimes you have to just screw it off
It's just yeah, I'm
and
just
just go hug a tree.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, which is a much nicer thing than whacking a mole.
Yes,
So,
yes.
right? And I'm from Oregon. We're tree huggers by nature. So, um, but
Yeah.
but but even to that, when you say that, it does make you laugh and not take things so seriously.
Hmm.
I had well, we had all these musicians in for a big concert with the National Arab Orchestra, who I work with in
Hmm.
Ann Arbor this weekend, and it was thousands and thousands and thousands of people were there. It was amazing. And
Wow.
as I was leaving to take our one of our singers to the hotel, we had a bump, right? And it was like a big bump, but then fortunately everyone was okay. And I drove the 3 blocks to the hotel, pulled in, let my guest out, and then my dashboard came up and said your tire pressure is 1. So it's like 11:30 at night, right? And so I'm like, okay, so I have a flat tire. Damn.
Yeah.
Um, and then, so I'm calling the tow people, and my phone is about ready to die. I am like the red is on red, and because I've been taking pictures and stuff all night, and and then it was like I'm getting them on the phone, and then the back tire goes, your back tire's on 1. So I'm like, oh,
Oh,
so I have 2 flat
flat
tires.
tires. Might as well.
2 flat tires, and I will never forget this feeling. It's like, huh, okay, so I guess my car's not going anywhere tonight except there's the tow truck. I don't know. And now it's like midnight. And I walk into the hotel and I said that then the musicians were there. The bar had just closed, and they came out and said, I guess I was supposed to be spending time with you guys tonight. So for the next 3 hours,
There
we
you
just
go.
sat and chatted, and I hadn't had time since they've been in town to visit with them. And it was magic. It was just magic. But I
Mm.
remember just saying to myself, it's like, okay, there's something bigger going on here, right? And there's nothing I can do, so I might as well flow with it.
Yeah, go with the flow. This is the whole 5D is, being in the bigger flow, not in the mental flow. Because we've
Yeah.
had structures and schedules and goals and whatnot. That's so old. It has really, gosh, it has screwed us over. So who cares? Like really go with the flow. Who cares? Like where are you gonna run to? There's no trophy here.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
One of
no
my
award. There's no nothing. There's just, it's a whole new perspective.
It is, and one of my colleagues, Jennifer Huff, said, "Do you know Jennifer Huff? I don't know if you do. She just
I
wrote a book
give a
called
first name.
Unstuck,
First name sounds familiar.
but her whole thing is do what presents." And I just
Do
thought,
what
okay,
presents exactly. Do what
s-
shows up in front of you and do it well, and just it'll keep showing. I mean, I spent my whole morning. I made a magic wand.
oh yeah,
There was some I don't know, some I heard a video and say make a magic wand, and like I was doing that. It was an old flute. I'm like,
yeah,
this is my magic wand. I was being a 2-year old, and I'm
okay.
like, this is my magic wand. Whatever it touches, it turns into gold.
And gold could
Whatever
be
I
defined.
say, it impacts the entire world. And God knows what the heck I was doing with it. I'm like, I'm going to use this magic wand every day. Just being goofy.
I want a magic wand.
So yeah, I'm actually gonna. This sitting is sitting. It's gonna be blessed by the sun every morning, and I'm going to play with it.
There you go. There you go. Because you can,
And I played the flute for celebration. I was as goofy as you can be, as you can imagine. I'm still goofy today, like But
right,
we need that. If we had
we
more
do.
of that, maybe the pandemic wouldn't have hit.
Right, right, right. And now as things are, and I think too, like even with my car, as now as things are opening up, it's like
Hmm.
it's a car, crying out loud, right? So, and the parts are on back order. I don't know when I'm going to actually get it back.
Hmm.
And to your point, it's like, okay, I'll get my magic wand out, right?
Magic wand
And
out,
see
and
what
yeah,
presents.
what
Be-
presents actually, the point is to have some fun, understand, have some fun at our dilemma. It's never going to go away. Um, do the best you can. Life is serious sometimes, but we don't need to take everything so seriously.
right. Well, and when we were, one of the funniest moments I remember when we were in India. I mean, there were so many moments, but one of them that
I
just was
know.
hysterical was when we were, when the driver of our vehicle, it was like a little bus, the driver missed the turn off the freeway. And he
Oh, yeah.
literally
Oh, my
just,
gosh.
and he literally on the freeway just started backing up on the freeway and went off on the
Um,
turn. And us with our Western minds, we were just like, oh my gosh, we're going to be
and did
killed.
you notice how everybody just stopped?
Yeah, or they
And they
just
may
went
have,
around him. And
everybody just stopped and they just helped him. And one time, actually, I did the same thing when I was in Michigan on a freeway. You know how you're supposed to go to the right, but you didn't. I kept
yeah,
going left. I'm like, oh shit, I got to like. So I look behind, I go up. So I think I called Karen or somebody, and I said, I just pulled an India on the freeway today.
but
And
but I
thank God there were no cops. I mean, exactly. It's life. It's messy. Rules are important until they're not.
well, and I think what I learned in that moment is how many things that we do because that's what we know to do, but it doesn't mean it's the only way to do something,
No,
right?
we're so programmed. This
Right.
is a time like we are so programmed and conditioned, and we can't help it. We're in this world. Um, this is actually the time to kind of peel away the layers because they make no sense. There's no value to them, and that's what's the unlearning. The
Yeah.
unlearning with the words like I'm supposed to, I should, I could. Really, in 5D,
Or I need
we don't
to.
have those words. We don't have those words. Life actually, look how complicated we make life with rules that are just plain old stupid.
So
Sorry to say.
what's 5D when you what does that mean?
Well, the 5D, so I'm talking about, I'm so sorry, it's fifth dimension, it's the new earth.
Mm,
So the shift that we are going through is us. If nothing changes, we change, we become a fifth dimensional being. We understand we are more than the body.
mm.
So we get in the flow rather than just the mental flow. We lead with the heart, lead with the soul. We develop our higher faculties, which is intuition and wisdom and intelligence, instead of just the intellectualization. And I talk about that. I explain that in the book, what a 5D, what a 3D is. It's really, we're entering a much nicer way of living because however we have been living, it hasn't been working for a long time. It's just that we were forced to pay attention to that during the pandemic. Pandemic kind of shed a light, bright light, on everything that wasn't working.
And so is the 5D? I mean, and I don't understand like the solar, the age of Aquarius
So,
kind of thing. Is that
everything, our human life is affected by the solar energy, right?
right?
And,
Right.
it's affected by solar energy. So even when you see, like when you see the external world, I mean, to say it's a chaos would be an understatement. But you want to look at behind the actions and the people, the energies that are at play here,
Mm,
right? The energies of control, manipulation, betrayal, chaos, revealing the truths. These are the energies that are all coming together all at once, and they're affected by the cosmic energies, by the solar energies, by how the planets are moving and situating. So it's an understanding of why human beings are behaving the way they're behaving if we understand and connect it to the cosmos. the bigger energetic field. So I think that's actually what's happening. How and where, who knows? I mean, who knows who has a magic wand up there? I have no idea. But
But you
but
have one down here.
but I created my own little universe here. And so it's when we look beyond the people, look at the energies, and understand that there's something much bigger happening here to balance things out. The cosmos are already always trying to bring the planet into equilibrium. It's ongoing all the time, right? So this is what's happening, is bringing the earth, bringing the people back into their original form. We're actually created to be fifth dimensional being, multi-dimensional being. It's just that we got stuck in the head,
Mm,
and we accomplished so much in the being in the mental flow. Incredible. I mean, technology and whatnot. The list is endless. But we, because we created so much we could, we thought we can destroy everything at will and we are in charge. Well, we're not. Okay, so this was like a lesson. It's like, yes, you've created a lot, but that's just a tip of the iceberg. There's much more to you, because in following the mental flow in creating, we also created a lot of misery, a lot of disease, a lot of pain and suffering. And in 5D, there's no such thing. If we live as integrated human beings, when I say integrated, when the head is integrated into the heart,
right.
when you are integrated with what's visible to the naked eye and what's not visible to the naked eye, it's all of it is together. So when we can look at the bigger picture, then we are really created to be joyous, to be in the flow, to be kind and compassionate. Our needs are fulfilled, so we don't have to manipulate, control, deceive, or lie to anybody, right? so
Right.
so that's the world we are going into, but right now it doesn't look like it. But that's the process, right? The process is ugly.
I always call it like cleaning out your closet.
Cleaning out your
You know,
closet is
i-
like, yeah,
in the middle of it, it is a mess.
it is a mess. And then people, like you asked me what kind of people are coming, so this is people are cleaning the individual closets. So people are getting triggered, all the trauma. I mean, 10 years ago we didn't speak of trauma in such a nonchalant way. Now it's like an everyday word,
Mm,
because we are realizing that, oh my god, the past is coming to haunt us. The traumas that we have not digested is coming. So people are coming with so much trauma that they have endured, because trauma is a shame pattern, right? It's like we don't want to say I was traumatized, because then there's a shame, there's a guilt, there's blame attached to it. When it really simply is just a fact of being a human life. And so if we so it's just so people are coming with that kind of things, it's because they can't help it. They are drowning in the past that they have not healed.
mm,
And that actually what it is doing is, the external is triggering people at an individual level. So it's difficult to escape. You're confronted with it. And you have to resolve it, because you're not going to become a fifth dimensional being if you have such a baggage of the past. It's
mm.
going to slow you down. So that's a process. The process of becoming a fifth dimensional being is to transmute all the painful energies.
So okay, and I love what you're saying. It makes a ton of sense. And um, where do people start? So for somebody's like, okay, I'm ready to do something different, but I don't know what to
Mhm.
do. So where do you start?
So, that, to be honest with you, when they're at that place, they really need me,
Mm.
or they need another expert, right? But if you're not going to do that, alone you're going to get lost. And also, one of the important thing of working with an expert or somebody, you need witness value. It's
So
very
tell me more. What
you
does that
need
mean?
so when somebody can acknowledge them,
Mm.
empathize, understand, reassure that they are not losing their head, help them connect the dots. It's very healing.
Okay.
We don't heal in isolation. Whether we heal with a book,
Mhm.
right? This is the book.
Wake up and heal,
We
right?
wake up and heal, or we heal with a friend or a mentor. We need someone. In isolation, we get lost in our own world. We are not being witnessed.
Hmm.
Being witnessed is a very big deal. Somebody to say,
I see
somebody
you.
to understand you. I see you. I hear you. I'm here for you. It's a big deal. And also, many times people don't connect the dots themselves. They get lost. They don't see because they're so they're so in it that there's not a separation for them to see. So somebody coming on the outside, like a mentor, a teacher, they can see it.
Right. So
They can see it
it's
better than they can.
like Einstein's quote that the same mind can't be the solution. I'm not saying it exactly, but the mind
I
that
know what you're
created,
saying is like
the
the
mind that
mind,
created,
yeah,
the
the
mind that
mind that
created.
created the problem is not going to find a solution because the solutions are actually outside the instructions on. So there's a quote that I wrote and I said, the instructions on how to open the box are written outside the box.
That's good.
So there, does that confuse you? It's like exactly. So get over the box, maybe create another place outside. And because that's what happens, we're kind of banging our head against the same thing, hovering over the surface, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. We're not getting anywhere. We
But
need to
there's
go
but
deep.
right, but there's so it's but it's I don't want to say it's a dichotomy. So you've got two things going there. In order, what I'm hearing you say is that in order to really get to hear and understand what we're already programmed and wired to hear,
Mhm.
and this and our intuition, our guidance, all of that, we have to get outside of ourselves to be able to have a different perspective to come into ourselves. Is that right?
Exactly, perfectly said, perfectly said. And we can't get out of ourselves by ourselves
By ourselves.
because
Okay,
we're
so
inside it. We are solving these kind of problems mentally like we always have done because
right,
that's what we know.
got it. Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. So talk to me a little bit about your book on food, your relationship with food, because
Yeah,
that was
my
such an
first book,
interesting book.
yeah, it's, I'll show people the cover because I love the cover of it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful book.
Oh, yeah, it's, healing your relationship with food. You know what's really, I'm amazed at?
Hmm.
I do podcasts on a weekly basis and I've been having guests. And so sometimes I do solo, in my own podcast. I'm just teaching and talking. And this morning I thought, oh, I should record this podcast because I'm doing a water fast.
You
And
are
I thought,
now?
I am. This is my
Okay.
day 3. I'm on day 3. And I thought, oh, really? I'd like it. There's so many things to talk about. I haven't talked about this book in a long time. And I thought it wasn't even about the book. And I said, I want to talk to people about like mental, the power of the mind and the food. And then the weight gain thing came up. And then spring cleanse, all of that came up. So it's funny that you were asking me about this book when I just did a podcast today, my solo podcast on food, mind, weight gain, and spring cleanse.
And spring cleanse. Well,
And
good.
spring cleanse. So this book is really when I talk about healing your relationship with food, because that's where it is at. This is not a cookbook. It is a cookbook, but I don't think the world needs more recipes. But I think the world does need to understand the science or the wisdom behind the recipes that are using medicine, that are using food as medicine to heal, right? So then we go back to what it is that we are healing, right? We're healing, we're really healing the paradigms, the mental constructs, the conditioning,
Around
right?
what?
Because
Around food?
around food, because look what we have produced in the culture of abundance and variety and options. Isn't it bizarre that people still don't know what to eat?
It's almost like it's become more confused, more
More confused
complicated
because,
because there's
you
so many
know,
choices.
one of the thing about having a lot of information is we must understand the sophistication of the information and have the capacity to digest it. It's kind of like a cell phone, right? Cell phone is powerful, but many people abuse it
Mm,
because we don't understand the impact of it. So before we pick up something like that to use, we must get really clear on the sophistication, on the power of this tool, and understand your and clarify your intention with it and how are you going to use it. Otherwise, you're just going to get sucked in doing this all day. Many
mm,
people are,
mhm.
right? So food is like that. So our relationship with food is like that. You know, we are bombarded with recipes. We're bombarded with the miracle food of the day. We're bombarded with so much information. We go to the grocery store. It's like a warehouse. It's like a kid in Candyland, right? There is so much. We're not equipped to handle it, frankly.
Mhm. That's actually, that's fascinating, and because so much of it is so bad for us.
So bad for us.
Yeah.
And because we have to stop thinking that there's one magic food. It really, the magic is within, the magic is in the consciousness, the magic is in understanding your pitfalls and why, in understanding your what are you drawn to, and understanding where do you feel you're best at when it comes to making food choices. So really the answer is not food. The answer is consciousness. The answer is awareness. It's a big deal.
But
And how do, yeah,
that's the answer for everything, right?
that's the
That
answer for
Yeah.
everything because, like I tell you, people come to me. I've had food, people with eating disorders and all of that. They think that I'm going to give them some kind of a magic Ayurveda diet that's going to cure their disorder. I'm like, no, it's nothing to do with the food, right? So, and the food is secondary. And I mean, my gosh, I mean, there are people who are like, I won't eat this. I won't eat this. I'm not supposed to eat this. And then 3 days later, they're binging on something, and then the guilt and the whole cycle. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've done ourselves in. So it's a head game. We need to get out of that space and understand that this information was fed to us. Do not take other people's opinions and beliefs about whatever they know to be facts about you. Think.
That's so interesting. My dad sends, he researches 8-10 hours a day. He's a retired physician and farmer, and
Uh-huh.
he just sent me something in the last week, some statistics, and I don't want to butcher the statistics here, but the bottom line is um, people are different, bodies are different, and what can be a good for you can not be good for you, and there's
Absolutely.
and
And that is unique.
right, right, and that just keeps coming up over and over and over in the evidence-based testing, and so it was just fascinating. So I'm going to actually put an article in my next issue around
Yeah.
that, and it was
And I
around what.
just, yeah, I want to say one quick thing about the food and the pandemic. Food has been a source of comfort during the
Mm,
pandemic, right?
yeah,
Uh,
my
me too. Food and YouTube,
yeah.
right? And I just mentioned, I'm like, I've never watched as much YouTube as I did in these 2 years, my entire life. I didn't even know all this stuff existed on YouTube, right? So, you've been to my office in Milford.
Hmm.
There was some walking involved, even to go to the restroom, even to go get my next client in, to go to the bank, to go get coffee, to go to my car, etc., etc. Here, this is the office. My kitchen is 4 feet away. The restroom is barely 8 feet away. So we're not moving. We're not moving. What that tells me, we don't need that much food.
Oh, right. We're
We're
used
not
to eat.
using
Yeah.
it. We're
Yeah.
not using it. We need to also eat. Like, remember, I talked about 3D, 5D. We're becoming more light, which means we need foods that are more filled with prana or lighter foods. We don't necessarily need the meat and potato, the really the heavy diet, which we needed when, people worked on the farms. They use their physical body. What do we need all of this for? We're not doing anything. We're sitting. I mean, I know for someone like, our work, my butt is glued to the chair and I'm here sometimes 5 hours a day.
Yeah,
So I,
I set an alarm that reminds me that every hour
yeah.
to get
And
up and run up and down the stairs.
those are the days when I'm like, okay, you know what? Not need much. We're not eating lunch today. There's no need to. Have some
Mm,
hot water because you don't need to. You didn't do anything.
mm. But that hot water just isn't as appealing as I don't know,
I know. It's just becoming conscious, and then it's not willpower. I think when you become conscious and you really connect with the source, with something larger than yourself, then the attachment to taste and food and distractions, and it becomes less and less because you are fulfilled. Food fills a gap somewhere more than what we need. So food fills a gap somewhere. So it's just that we need to recognize the gap, and there are so many other um, marvelous ways to fill that gap.
mm,
And I know that from experience.
yeah. And
You know,
excuse me, but it starts with awareness.
starts with
So,
awareness, and so what people can do is get a notebook. Get a notebook,
mhm,
and it's a really great way to see what's inside of you, because you are what's inside of you you're putting in front of you. Number one, it doesn't control you because you can create a little bit of a gap, a distance. Start with one thing in their life. So this is about raising awareness. Start with, maybe it's their food, maybe it's their sleep, maybe it's their relationship, um, maybe it's their mental state, maybe it's how they're feeling in their heart, or maybe it's some symptoms, fatigue, or something that's going on in the body. Like, become an investigator, a scientist.
I
So
like to say get curious.
get
Get
curious. I
curious.
love that
Yeah.
word. Hold fascination, because you have no idea, because it could totally blow your mind away if you give yourself space to be blown away. So then just write down, how are you feeling? What is it at? Whatever you can think about it, feel about it, write it down. Second day, third day, pick a different topic, pick a different area of your life, and just do it for 7 to 10 days. You'll begin to see a pattern or something emerge. Something will talk to you. It's like, oh my God, this is happening every single day. Because we are not aware. We think, people come to me, they're like, you know, yeah, I don't really drink. So I get really, specific, and I said, okay, how many glasses per week? And they're like, a couple of glasses a day. But they thought they're not drinking at all. For an example, one of the
Yeah.
client and I said, that's an addiction.
Mm,
He said, no one, his eyes popped out. He goes, no one has ever told me that. I said, well, it's just a fact. I mean, you're drinking a couple of glasses of wine every day. That's not nothing. There's a habit forming here. It's very subtly, powerfully forming, and it's just becoming your new normal. So you're not seeing it. So he actually, 3 years later, he sent me an email. He goes, those 4 words were the most important words of my life. No one has ever told me that. I actually gave up all alcohol. I lost 100 some pounds. I'm in yoga teacher training. He said, so I got my money's worth. Thank you so much.
oh, that's great. Well,
So
so that said, if somebody wanted to find you, where would they go?
they can. My website is Ayurvedic, Ayurvedic healingcenter.com. And if people are listening and they're curious how I might be able to help them and guide them, they can schedule a complimentary consultation with me. It just right online. They just click a button, schedule on Calendly, and schedule a 30-minute complimentary consultation. And we have a conversation and see if what I have to offer is what you're looking for.
Okay.
And then we go from there. And I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And what I want to ask people is my YouTube channel, I have released 21 free guided meditations. It's a healing journey. There are 21 meditations. So people can go to my YouTube, just type Meena Puri on YouTube and I'll pop up. And so they can subscribe if they like, but they can access the free meditations, and that will
Meditations.
take them inside. That'll take them internally. They'll take them inside. They'll take them to questioning and being curious and kind of raising the level of their awareness.
Okay. Sounds like it's
Yeah,
a great place to start.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
I've meditated like in many places with Miss Meena, and they are wonderful. they
Oh
they
my
are
gosh, I
wonderful.
remember. And one time we got up from the meditation, one person was missing. Do you remember that? Like,
No.
oh, maybe I shouldn't have closed my eyes for 20 minutes. I lost one,
But they were found.
but they were
Right.
found.
They were
Yeah.
found. Right. Right. So, all right. Well, it's been such a joy talking to you, and I
Same
got
here,
some.
Sherry.
I think I got a couple of things like nobody ever told me to process, like your client. So I'm going to write those down and put those in my meditations.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely. Thank you
and
so much. Thank you so
your
much for having me on your podcast.
I'm just delighted. And your book's supposed to be here today, so I was hoping to get
Oh,
it before
good.
the
So
show.
yeah,
So yeah, I'll
yeah,
read
it's
it and.
available on Amazon and it's been doing really well. I'm getting a lot of comments and positive feedback.
Oh, I'm sure it's brilliant, just like you.
Oh,
So,
thank you so much. You're so kind. Yeah.
well, good. Well, it's take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you, Sherry. Talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye bye.